Hey everybody, this is Madison with Everest Direct Mail, where we like our explanations how we like our mail, and that's direct. Roll intro. Today, we're going to be talking about a hotly misunderstood subject, and that is mail tracking. It's probably the second thing I get asked most about mail, asides, does mail still exist? And what I mean by tracking number is this. It is what is called an intelligent mail barcode. And I can kind of get it nice and close so you can see it. So essentially, the intelligent mail barcode includes a bunch of different data for mail tracking purposes. It originally started that USPS, of course, had to track their own internal processes in mail, and of course, the intelligent mail barcode was the way they track it. They have other things such as UV barcodes and different things like that, but this is what you see on almost every single automation mail piece in the mail today. So it's essentially, if you've been doing direct mail or transactional mail like billing, you've probably gotten tracking reports that have shown your mail being delivered, and that's probably come from your mail service provider. Mail tracking, which is actually called informed visibility now, is a free service that is provided by USPS to mail service providers and other companies providing mail-related services. And like I said, it's originated off of USPS's own internal tracking systems. It sometimes tracks 100% of your mail being delivered, whether that is marketing class or first class or postcards, and sometimes it tracks only 5% of your mail. And this is why I'm making this video, is to explain why your mail doesn't always get tracked and why sometimes it always gets tracked. So before diving into the nitty-gritty, this video is really explaining just two things. One, mail tracking can be extremely useful if you understand it properly, and two, mail tracking is not guaranteed and is not that reliable, but if you balance the two things together, then it makes a whole lot of sense on why mail tracking is useful. So let's first break down the Domestic Mail Manual, a manual that literally is all of USPS. If you sit down and read all 1,300 plus pages of the Domestic Mail Manual, you will know pretty much everything there is to know about how USPS operates. So let's go ahead and break it down. So we are going to look for mail tracking. So I'm going to pull up my handy index. That's not it. All right, tracking. It is in book 507.10.2. 507. Additional mailing service. This is exciting. All right, so it is in additional mailing services 500. Additional mailing services. That is nice and thick. Alrighty, so it's going to be in 510. So we're going to flip all the way back, and here we go. So we are going to be reading about the informed visibility. Now this is the exact legalese of USPS, so I'm going to read it because us as mail service providers really come under a lot of pressure when it comes to mail tracking. So, and a lot of people, rightfully so, do not read the Domestic Mail Manual because why would you? All right, so informed visibility. Basic standards. Informed visibility, or IV, provides a mailer with data electronically collected from the scanning of barcoded mail pieces as they pass through the automated mail processing operations. Scanned data can include the postal facility where such pieces are processed, the postal operation used to process the pieces, the date, the time the pieces were processed, and the numeric equivalent of a barcode that helps to identify the specific pieces. This service does not provide a delivery scan or proof of delivery, and not every piece is guaranteed such data or complete data. IV is available for automation compatible letter size and automation compatible flat size mail, meeting the physical characteristics of 10.0. Participation in IV service available at no charge without a subscription. Requirements include and a bunch of stuff, so we're just not going to get into that. So now we're just going to put this back in and let it get dusted off. So, now that you know what the legal mumbo jumbo says, let's dive into how mail travels. So first, we've explained number one is that mail tracking is not extremely reliable, but it is useful. So now that we've passed that, and USPS doesn't guarantee everything, it'd be awesome if they did, but I guess that's why they want you to buy mail tracking, which is literally real tracking information, but they charge just like UPS and FedEx charges for it. So we're going to explain how mail moves and why some stuff gets tracked, sometimes it doesn't. So if you're watching this video, you probably have mail before and you're like, I don't understand why my mail gets 90% scan rate. Here's an example right here on the screen. So, so it's around 90%, right? So it's like 90% scan rate, and you're like, I don't really understand why the other 10%, what happened to it? So we're going to break down just a little bit of diagram that I'm going to use as little acronyms possible because USPS loves acronyms. Keep in mind, the reason all this exists is because the mail stream is really, really complicated, right? So it's got 500 million pieces of mail that's moved through the mail stream every single day it's delivered. So at any one point in time in the United States, there's 10 billion pieces of mail sitting at USPS facilities at any one point in time. That's way more than FedEx and UPS has in packages at any one point in time. So it is a colossal of an operation, and it's amazing that you can just send off marketing class mail for 30 cents and you can still mail a letter to Hawaii from Washington, D.C. in 3 days for 50 cents for forever class stamp. So it's pretty amazing. So here is the reason some of your mail gets scanned or not. Now, you're not going to see this, so I'm going to put it on the screen here. So I'm going to put it on the screen. So here we go. So first off, the mail is going to be dropped off from us as the mail service provider at the BMEU, which stands for the Bulk Mail Entry Unit, right? So that's a BMEU. There's many different types of BMEUs, so we're just going to chalk it up to BMEU. There's internal, attached, detached BMEUs, which is, DBMEU. Anyway, so we're just going to go ahead and just say it's BMEU. All right, so first off, from us in Asheville, North Carolina, all of our mail that's non-entry is going to get delivered to Greenville. All right, that's the GVL. All right, so basically after that, it all gets to Greenville and there's a decision to be made. All right, so basically it's either going to be mixed ADC or it's going to be 3 or 5-digit zip codes. Now, let me give you an example on the zip code. So Dallas, for instance, the entire area of Dallas, the 3-digit zip codes all start with 752. So what's going to happen is that if we are mailing a bunch of mail to Dallas, what'll happen is that Dallas will have a bunch of trays that'll be like 752, or the zip code starting with 752. If we go back to the screen here, I can kind of give an example. So basically on the mail tray, what ends up happening is that they scan the barcode, and the first 3 digits, you can actually see it right here where it says, I have to blot my face out to get it focused. Maybe I got it. There we go. So 280, right? So that's going to be your 2-digit, 280. That's actually going to be a more mixed ADC. So your first 2 digits is going to determine the location, and then your 3 digits is going to determine the further location, and then you've got your 5-digit, which determines literally the post office that it's going to be delivered to. So what's going to end up happening, going back to the graph here, we've got mixed ADC. So let's say that a bunch of stuff's going to Dallas. So it's not mixed. So that means that everything in the tray that I just showed you is all going in either a 3-digit or 5-digit zip code. So they scan the tray, and what's going to happen is they're going to scan it, and it's going to determine if it's an air destination. Air destination means that it's going to be first class. All right, so if it's a first class tray, they're going to determine that it is a destination, that is an air destination. If it's marketing class, it's probably going to be ground. So because it moves a little bit slower, that's why it's vastly cheaper. So it's going to be air destination. All right, so let's go ahead and run the pass. So let's say that it is first class. You're mailing first class postcards, right? So they are going to air destination, they're going to scan it, and they're going to say yes. Okay, now that's going to be processed through a process called EAA. All right, so they like to change things. So EAA stands for Enhanced Airline Assignment. What that does is they don't break open the tray or anything. It scans a tray and says, hey, this needs to go on this airplane. Therefore, dock number 422 way down, they have hundreds of docks at the Greenville facility or any SCF facility, so it'll get dropped at that facility. And what that is, and I like to explain to people, is that is the old term for it, which is still used, is automatic airline assignment. So basically what that is it's a system that automatically processes letter trays and flats tubs, AAA, automatic airline assignment, assigns the trays and tubs to airlines with dispatch and routing, so that's DNR. All right, labels and air contract transportation tags and trucks with surface D and R and highway contract routes, HCR tags. Okay, so that's either going to be determined if it's going to be going on which trailer, therefore load an airplane, or which container like GPUs or APC containers. It gets really complicated. Okay, so AAA integrates that into the tray transport systems in the facility and interfaces with commercial shipping systems for airline truck assignments. So USPS will contract out planes and trucks to make sure that you meet the delivery standards wherever in the country. So either that's going to be air or not. When the tray gets scanned for air, even if there's 150 pieces in that tray, it's all going to be scanned, and you're going to actually see that as an EAA scan in your tracking. And then basically what happens is that it'll go into a container, and it's not going to get scanned because it's sitting in the container, and the whole container's got a barcode on it, so none of your pieces are going to get scanned. Then what happens after that is that it goes into dispatch. So when they break the trays together, they're going to aggregate all the 3-digit trays together, and it won't show the scans. Now this is where it sort of gets tricky at this big red box here. So the downstream facility is either going to be 2 different facilities. It's either going to be literally the post office itself, which is the 5-digit post office, which means that your mail won't get any scans at the post office. And I'll explain why you don't get any scans at all from A to Z. And then the alternative ends up in the local SCF facility, which it's going to get what's called a stop the clock scan. Stop the clock scan means it's going to hit it's going to scan it, and it's going to basically stop the clock, saying, hey, this is going to be delivered in the next couple of days because it's hitting the post office. The post office has a duty to deliver it at your residence or at your mailing address that you're hitting. So that is a very, very, very common. That's the most common procedure for mailings that you have a bunch of 5-digit and 3-digit in one tray. All right, so let's go ahead and explain what happens in your normal scans, and then lastly we're going to explain why you get no scans at all. No scan for you. So first off, let's go back. So basically we'll go ahead and do what's the DIOSS, so with the sorters. So we'll go ahead and explain that. So essentially leaves our facility, goes to Greenville. All right, is it mixed ADC? Yes. There's a bunch of mail. It's all going to 8, and it's going all over North Carolina. It's going all over New York, or who knows? It's going all over the Pacific Northwest or whatnot, which would be mixed ADC, or it may be ADC, where they have to send to a facility, and it's going to get distributed from one facility to other facilities, and finally to the post office. So that's going to process through DIOS, or DIOSS, which will show every scan of every mail piece. And that's why it's more expensive when you're mailing mixed ADC for postage. So DIOSS stands for Delivery Barcode Sorter Input Output Subsystem, or let's just call it a mail sorter. Here's a picture of one. So you can see that where that's the mail sorter. Pretty straightforward. It sorts your mail into different trays. They call it DIOSS. That's the standardized term for it. So DIOS is Delivery Input Output Subsystem. So pretty straightforward on that. All right, and then basically it goes through the same stuff. Air destination, okay, it's air destination. It'll get put on a container, get on an airplane or truck, then all of a sudden it'll be like manual sorting container. Maybe Perhaps that day they got a ton of 5-digit to Dallas, going to one post office with a load on a container, and then it'll just go right to the post office. So your only scan will be that one entry scan, and then it gets delivered, and there's no stop the clock scan. So there you go. But at least you got a scan. You know it's in the system. It's getting delivered. It's going to be, it's going to be delivered, guaranteed. And it's always delivered. So, but the problem is when you don't have the visibility in there, it does kind of suck, but it's fine. So let's go ahead and explain where your mail will never get scanned. The whole tray is going to one zip code, right? So the whole thing is going to one zip code, which means one post office, the whole thing, the strap. So let's say there's 125 pieces going to a neighborhood, and it's going to one 5-digit zip code going to the post office. Maybe it's even sorted by carrier route, which means that every piece is in order where the carrier is going to be dropping it in the mailbox, right? So what's going to happen is that it's going to go to Greenville. They're going to look at it and be like, it's not mixed ADC. All right, so is it air destination? They're like, no, it's marketing class or first class postcards, right? So it's not letter first class mail. It's either one of the two marketing standards. And they're gonna be like, okay, this is going into a manual sort into a container that's going to be delivered to Dallas, right? So it's all going to be going in this. We don't really know what it is. It's all going to be going to Dallas. Then it'll go into the Dallas dispatch facility, which will either be an SCF or the NDC facility, and it'll be like, wow, this tray's all going to this post office. Then it gets to the post office, and the post office can't scan mail. So they don't scan mail, unfortunately, because they would have to, that would take forever. You have to scan every single piece of mail. So basically it hits the facility, and then the courier, basically they get it on the trays, get on the APCs or GPU or the canvas carts, depending what it is, and they get into the post office and they'll say, okay, so this is all going on, this is all 28704 or, 75212 or wherever the 5-digit is. And essentially what ends up happening at that point is that the couriers will essentially end up distributing that on mail. So basically that's a hand sort. And that's where the couriers actually hand sort their own mail depending on their route. So essentially if you have a carrier route that's a walking route or it's a rural route, so for instance you have an urbanized route or a rural route, it'll just depend on the post office. The whole moral of the story is that your mail is getting delivered. If mail was not getting delivered, that would be several things. Either that would be mail fraud on your mail service provider, which we're held to super high standards, so that just wouldn't happen. Or USPS would be recycling hundreds of millions of pieces of mail. It'd be crazy. And the people that do throw away mail, the couriers, people don't realize it, but you get caught extremely fast. If you stop getting your mail, people are calling the post office and yelling at them. So the post offices have a really, really deep connection to the local community. So it makes US Mail almost more reliable than, say, your FedEx facility or UPS, which are just, independently owned franchise stores, and they don't really know what's going on with their own package stream. So it's really, really a myth that mail doesn't get delivered. If mail will eventually get delivered, stuff does get slowed up. There's just a lot of different standards. If you want something to arrive 100% guaranteed, you want to mail it letter mail. That's not marketing class, right? Standard class. That's not postcard. That's going to be your first class mail. You're going to have to pay a lot of money for it. You're going to have to pay, anywhere between 37 to say 45, 46 cents for pre-sorted first class mail. But depending on your mail service provider. But the bottom line is that it's going to arrive in 3 days, because that's where USPS makes the most amount of their money, but they give deep discounts for marketing class, but it'll still arrive. So if your message is not exactly super, super important, then these are time sensitive important, and just arrives there in the next 14 days, 2 weeks is totally fine, then that's absolutely fine. Take the discount. It's going to arrive on time. If you see the scans coming through in the tracking reports, you're all good. So anyway, thanks for listening. I hope that explains mail tracking. It can get really complicated. Mail in general can get very complicated, as we can see by our domestic mail manual. But I hope this is educational. This is Madison with Everest Direct Mail, and I'll catch you at the next video.